Hello everybody, Elijah here. Welcome you all to another Epic 7 video, and today we are going to be doing all things Nightmare Raid, and I will be giving you guys on each of the bosses and what I use, as well as giving replacement options if you do not have the units that I have. So yeah, starting things off, we are going to be starting with the boss at the top left corner, the most annoying one, the longest running one, using this comp of Winter, Acades, Tenebria, and Summertime, Syria. Yes. Here is their gear and all that other good stuff. Feel free to screenshot it, pause it to get the stats and all that good stuff. And yeah, essentially this team is a Winter cheese. We are essentially cheesing the boss with Winter, and it's not really the most free-to-play friendly team by any means. So if you want to do something more free-to-play friendly, there is also a team comp using Adventure Ross, Carrot, Lorena, and Acades that also works. If you're using Adventure Ross for another team for a different raid, then you can replace Adventure Ross with Edward. That's a really good option, and you can also use DPSs like Spectre and Roy. Those are other good DPS options to replace like Winter, I guess, or like Lorena in that other team place. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the actual boss itself. Boy, oh boy. Now, if you are using the same team as me, this boss, again, it is like a little bit of a Winter showcase because basically all your damage is going to be the Winter's fixed damage and things of that nature. And you're going to be using Summertime Iseria as well as Tenebria to control the units in the front. You want to keep them stunned, essentially, permanently, and debuffed and slept and all the good stuff, and slowly kind of like whittling them down. And since your Winter is going to be on RNL, you're going to be hoping for RNL procs to then get her S3 up fast as possible, and then S3 the boss to do a decent chunk of damage. And since this boss doesn't really have like a second phase or anything, you are essentially just, you know, going and doing this, killing the ads in the front, and making sure that you have your skills off cooldown for your Tenebria when the boss goes into like the after phase, like when it loses its defense buff and immunity. And those are the only thing they have to really worry about. Other than that, if you get 15%, it sucks. It makes the boss fight a lot longer than it has to be. But if you're not getting resistant over and over again, then the boss is relatively easy to do with this team comp. Alrighty, we are coming to the end here. Yeah. There's not really much to say. Boy, oh boy. This fight, this boss is so long and tedious. I don't like it at all, but this team has served me justice and has made it a lot easier for me to do. I don't really know how people deal with this boss, having to deal with the RNG of relying on Carrot to land her burns and things like that, but not me, not I. But for those of you who do have to do that, boy oh boy, I wish you the best. But yeah, you get our goodies and then we head off, right? To clear off all the other things. We can also go to the camp first to get our, I don't even know what it's called, reputation, energy, whatever it is, to get that up. This team has like zero kind of like synergy whatsoever when it comes to getting those points up, but it is what it is. It's fine. Alrighty, now let's see what kind of gear that we get. Do we get anything good? Hopefully. Boy, oh boy. We got a bunch of stuff, but not any good gear pieces. Who would have thought? But it is what it is. It's raiding for you. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you just get nothing worthwhile. But hey, we got a Moonlight summon, so that's nice. Alrighty, we're on to the next boss, which is going to be the Big Worm in the bottom left of the map. The team we're going to be using is Aros, Mercedes, Politis, and Hazel. Here is their gear and their stats. This team is like relatively easy to copy. I mean, most people have the first 3 units. You might not have Politis, and if you're using Adventure Ross in the last boss, then you can also use Cecilia, Fire Cecilia. She's a really good option for this. And if you don't have Politis, then there is also the option to use Ball and Sazan. So yeah, those are your 2 like replacement options for those of you who may have those units built and things like that. I think most people prefer to use Cecilia, but I just don't really care to build her. So yeah, we don't use Cecilia in this house. We are an AROS gamer when it comes to fighting worms. Alrighty, and on to the boss. Now, we are going to be needing to use a bunch of AoE attacks and not directly targeting the worm until there is no ads in front. Once we kill off all the ads in the front, then we can directly target it relatively easily and try to do as much damage as possible and things like that. So yeah, focusing the little spider in the front because, again, if we hit the secretary when they have mobs in the front, they will counterattack and do a ton of damage. Like, so avoid doing that and just focus the guys in the front. My skills was not off cooldown during this, so it, you know, the turn order wasn't as best, but normally speaking, Mercedes with a similar stat line as mine, with 1 S3, she just one-shots that entire first wave, as you will see here. I mean, they were kind of weak there, but Mercedes does a lot of damage, right? And she doesn't even have that good gear, right? She's on counter set in this build, and you can go for a way higher gear score, destruction build, or even rage set, or something along those lines. Whatever DPS gear you want to give your Mercedes, mine is on a counter set because she was on Guild War Defense. And then Politis is just regular Politis. I just changed her artifact to Caladras for this boss fight. And then we rinse, wash, and repeat until the boss is till 50% HP, and then we'll go on to the next phase. Alrighty, we're activating the next phase, and the key part about this phase is debuffing the little egg and killing it as fast as possible, because if you don't kill it before its S3 goes off, it will explode and do a ton of damage to your entire team, and I'm pretty sure it's fixed damage depending on the amount of HP it has. So I think unless you have, like, I would say like 10% HP left on this, like you didn't kill it and it has 10% HP left, then maybe you can survive, but anything above that, it will just one-shot your whole team, or other than like your Mercedes, who then will revive, so you have to start over, you don't want that to happen. But yeah, if you get a defense break off, you will just do a ton of damage, right? Like you will just nuke, you will just like basically like ruin this boss. Do we get defense break here? We do, and wow, look at that chunk, yeah. So definitely something that you just aim for a defense break, and things like that. I don't know what Cecilia's defense break chance is, but her defense break is on her S1, so you don't have to like soul burn to use it repeatedly. So there's that. And then we're on to the next phase. And this phase, you are essentially just DPS racing it down, right? There's nothing really too much to it. You want to try to use your Adventure Ross to strip away that immunity buff. With his S1, we got resisted the first time. Nothing new, nothing new. But then you are just going to focus on trying to do as much damage as possible. You got rid of that immunity, so now you can defense break him when the time comes, and all that good stuff. You also want to kill those worms, the worm eggs beside it, so that, like, before they hatch. Alrighty, and now we are done with this boss. And we get to get our rewards, and I'll go fight off all the rest of the mobs elsewhere, do a little camping, and then we can see what gear we got. Boy, oh boy, nothing. Another boring piece. What's new? Literally, I mean, this whole video is probably gonna be bad gear pieces. Now we are fighting on the bees, and we are going to be using Ray, Destina, Lilius, as well as Vivian. Here's their gear on the screen. If you do not have Lilius, that is perfectly fine. She is a limited hero by all means. Other options could be Zahhak, as well as Landy are really good DPS options. Most people are going to use Zahhak for this, but if you want to use Minagala Lilius, then by all means do that. I think she just does a ton of damage to this boss, which is why I prefer to use her. And if you don't have Ray, or you don't want to use Ray, you can use Roana. She's another Soul Weaver that works just as effectively as him, just somebody to help with cleansing. You can also just have Destina be your solo Soul Weaver, and then have Landy on Bloodstone as like another person for sustain and healing, and then use like Zahhak and Vivian, or Vivian and Lilius. That also works. Alrighty, here we are to the bees. This used to actually be one of the more harder bosses, but now since they've changed it and like reworked it a little bit, it's not really that hard at all, especially because you can see what is going to be, you know, when we get to the other phase that it goes into, and we'll get into that. But yeah, this fight, you essentially just want to cleanse. You want to, if you're using both Ray and Destina or any full team cleanser, you want to make sure that you have their S3 up. When the boss goes and does his S3, or hers, or theirs, I don't know, I mean, I guess it is theirs, it's a bunch of bees. Anyway, but yeah, you want to keep your S3 up for this moment right here, so your Destina can cleanse the whole team. And then on top of that, you can then have your Vivian put immunity. And yeah. Fun, oh fun. Don't you guys just love Nightmare Raid? It's so much fun. Alrighty. And now when we go into this phase, this happens like at 70% HP, and I'm pretty sure 40% HP. It will go into this phase where they split apart, and if you have a full team of Earth units, you will see which one you have to target, and you will essentially just have to kill it, right? Just focus down all your damage and stuff into the one with the target above it. And once you remove and kill that, you will go back to fighting the bees as one collective as normal. And then when we're on our final phase, you are essentially going to see this little smiley face that appears, and you want to do any kind of soul burn, right, with your skills, preferably soul burns that are cheap. That's why a lot of these units have 10 cost soul burns on this team. It's for the best to make this fight a little bit easier, or when it comes to, you know, not relying on that many souls. And yeah, that's basically it to this boss. Keep your team alive. Destina, I would say, is a very, very big time unit here, just because she has revive. So if everything goes wrong and somebody dies, you have Destina there to revive your team. So I would say Destina is definitely like best in slot for this to use. But yeah, the boss is dead. Let's go clearing out the rest of everything else and seeing what gear is left for us to see. Alrighty, and we got an okay piece. I mean, if it rolls all speed, it's pretty nice. But yeah, better than our last. Alrighty, and we made it to our final of like the little mobs or whatever, or the side bosses. And we're going to be using a Brieg, Amelia, Ida, as well as Shu. Yes, yes, yes. Anyway, here's their gear. It'll pop up. And, you know, screenshot, get the stats you need to get, all that kind of good stuff. This team is essentially going to consist of a defense breaker, a high damage dealer, and a cleanser. So another defense breaker you could use is Ran. It's also a good option. Then you can use Montmorency as well, and then you can use Kisei as another high defense, not high defense, a high damage dealer unit. She does a lot of damage, so you can use her as well. But Shu makes this extremely easy if you do have Shu. I would highly recommend building and using her for this over anybody. Alrighty, and we're on to the boss. And the reason why I use Brieg here, I think most people use like double Soul Weaver just for the extra cleanse. But Brieg has a self-cleanse as well as a decreased speed and 2-turn defense break, which is really nice to have in any type of PvE boss fight. Decreasing their speed as well as defense breaking them 2 turns makes the boss a million times easier, which is why I love Brieg so much. And since his passive. It's not even a passive. It's more like skill proccing when his like rage bar is full. Isn't a passive. He isn't sealed. He can do it regardless, which kind of makes him really, really good for this. Because this boss will occasionally go into stealth, and you want to not have to deal with that. So Reek is somebody who is another unit that even though he doesn't have AoE, he can reach that stealth unit and remove it, as well as a barrier that the little guys in front will tend to give the big guy in the back. Is this like a beetle? No, it's like a cockroach. I don't know. Whatever it is, we're killing it. But whatever it is, we're killing it. I mean, this is going into stealth. That's why AoE is also really good. But I mean, having Shu S3 and holding on to Ida's S2 or S3 for those moments is also really good for getting it out of stealth and all that good stuff. But yeah, once we get to the final phase, we try to go for a defense break. We don't get it, but it's fine. This is why we use Shu. Shu completely ignores like this boss so much. She makes this boss so much easy. A walk in the park. You just soul burn. Just a soul burn using Shu. And if you're using Kisei soul burn does a lot of damage to this as well, because her S1 does a ton of damage to units that are buffed. So yeah, both two high damage dealers that you can use that work very, very well for that. And yeah, let's go ahead and see what kind of gear we got this time around as we clear through everything else. We actually got a good piece, but it's on Unity set, and nobody really used Unity set other than like one other unit, but it's still decent. Like, it's a good piece overall. So yeah. Alright guys, we have finally made it to the end. We've made it to the Queen. My gosh, this has been a long day. I did this all in one sitting, by the way, which I would never recommend. Never take on all of this in one sitting. Anyway, who we're going to be using? We're going to be using Arwell, Spectre Tenebria, Tama, and Ioseria. Here is their gear and their stats for your, you know, to copy or whatever makes you feel comfortable. If you are using Spectre Tenebria and something else, then you can also use Little Queen, Charlotte, Aiden, or Landy. They also work in this boss as well, just units that deal high amounts of damage. Aiden and Little Queen Charlotte does bonus damage to dark units, and the boss is dark. I'm pretty sure it's a dark boss, the Queen. Either way, the guys in the front are dark bosses, so you know that's also very optimal for them and killing them a lot faster. And yeah, we also Tamarin and Ioseria I would say is a must-have. Like, you quite literally need to use them for this. And before you even get to the boss, make sure your Tamarin's S3 is off cooldown. Preferably make sure everybody's S3s and stuff and skills are just off cooldown, just because it'll make the boss a lot more smoother when you start it out. And Arwell's here just for mitigation as well as an extra like strip, because for some reason if you just rely on Tamarin and Ioseria to strip away the buffs from the main boss, and we'll get into those mechanics later on, I don't know what it is, but they will fail you every single time. Arwell is there for like the backup option if Tamarin and Ioseria also fails you and doesn't strip away the buffs that we need to strip. So yeah, let's go ahead and get to the boss. Alrighty, we're here at the boss. We're gonna hit it, and it's gonna like counterattack and push your entire team back. And they're going to be effective with that debuff, and the only way that they can CR push up is if you use somebody to CR push them up, right? They're basically stuck in the CR bar unless you use any type of CR pushing up ability, which is why we have Tamarin here, who is going to S2 and push the entire team up, and voila. Everybody kind of ends up wasting a turn, but it's whatever. And then we have to gamble and try to strip away the buffs. We do get it, thankfully. And you're going to focus down the bees. You're just going to focus the bees. So I would say, like, yeah, you could not do it and just see what happens after, but focus the bees. Focus the bees, and I use Ioseria here to imply Unbuffable onto the Queen in the back, just so that she doesn't buff herself. And yeah, we're just gonna focus the bees and kill them. And then we're gonna move on to... And then, yeah, you kill the bees, you focus on getting the boss down to 50% HP, and before it gets to 50% HP, make sure your Tamarin's S3 is off cooldown again, because the boss is going to do a similar thing like it did at the beginning of this, all over again, and you'll see that in a second once we get there. Anyway, we are about to hit the second phase. Tamarin didn't do enough damage there. Boy, oh boy. I think Iseria should, ideally, do enough damage. Yeah, there we go. It's going to counterattack, CR push everybody, give everybody that debuff that can only be removed if you CR push your teammates with somebody. And yeah, make sure Tamarin's in the front, by the way, because again, the units that are affected are the backline set units. I know that's a little bit obvious, as you can see it here, but just in case, make sure Tamarin's in the front. So yeah, now we're just going to focus the queen. Just make sure you strip away the attack and defense buff over and over again. Ignore the spiders, the other spiders, because they're just going to revive if you kill them anyway. They have a ton of HP, so like you're not going to kill them even if you try. Like there's no point, right? So anyway, just keep Tamarin, stripping, keep Iseria. Oh, well, don't take that out of context, but keep them, you know, debuffs, unbuffable, defense break. The only downside is that she does cleanse after she takes her turn, which kind of sucks. But regardless, do what you gotta do. Do a DPS this boss down. Alright, now we're on to the final phase, even though it's not really a phase. Oh, by the way, Spectre makes this so much easier just because you can just soul burn the boss to death, which is why I like to use it for this versus anything else. But yeah, this phase, I don't even know what this phase is all about. It seems like a waste of time. I don't even know if you have to like hit it a certain amount of times, but you essentially are just surviving. Like if you make it to this point, like you're fine. Like there's no losing from this point onward. Your units would already been dead if you were going to lose this boss fight. So this is a phase that just honestly just stalls the fight out. It's literally just stalls the fight out, to be completely honest. Way longer than it needs to be. But yeah, healing everybody up and just hitting the boss. And then it will hit you, and then it will not be invincible anymore, and you could just kill it. And you can get your goodies, and then you can travel and clear all the other mini bosses. And let's see what gear we got this time. Boy, oh boy, nothing. Literally nothing. I mean, that's like a protection set piece if you want to put something on protection set, but we really didn't get anything gear-wise. But yeah, that's it. And since we do have enough summons to do a little Moonlight summon, let's go ahead and do this. Oh boy. Wonder what we're going to get. Maybe they'll fake me out. It's a warrior, but not the warrior we want. Anyway, that is that. We're going to conclude this video here. If you did enjoy, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want more content guide videos like this, please feel free to let me know in the comments. And yeah, peace out.